these are going to be our embers. Let's make another rob. So let's just copy and paste one. Let's candidate lights, just everything probably. We don't want any matte objects for this. Just wanted to render it. Maybe we want to use the terrain as a matte object. Yeah, let's use the terrain. Let's add that later because it's just gonna slow us down when we use the IPR. So let's add it later. Let's go make a material. Check material. Call it embers. We need to kindle the last flame. Praise the sun. So shout out if you know what that's from. Anyway, so let's put everything in there. Now we need this object to render it as particles. So we need to go into Redshift OBJ. Like all the things you do with Redshift, all of the settings are going to be in these settings. So we're going to go into particles, because they are particles, render as objects, and let's set we can set our particle scales as an attribute, but for now, for testing, let's just make a global scale multiplier. It will pick up at p-scale, but we haven't written out p-scale yet, so now that's not going to do anything. But let's just put a sort of a just a default scale, and let's just ignore scale. So let's just keep that at 1, and that's the default scale at 0.01. Yeah, let's have a look at what it looks like. So let's we need to call these embers. So the way Redshift does particle render, we need to probably turn off volumetric scattering on. Are we in the correct thing? We are, but we still have smoke breath selected. We don't want that. We want RNDR embers. Okay, so this works. You can see we also see the stuff in the bottom, so probably want to matte that out. Aside from that, that works. Probably what we want to do is we want to add some stuff to our material. So let's go in here. Let's delete all of our attributes that we don't need. Okay, so we do have the color. We probably want to keep the color. So where is it? So delete everything except for the color, and except for velocity. So if you make this thing, then it's gonna say star is gonna say everything, and then except for whatever. So now we delete everything except for those attributes. Now let's go into our material, and let's load in our attribute. And we can do that by typing attribute. So point attribute. You can use either vertex or color attributes, but of course, because these are points, they don't have vertices, they only have points. So let's put it in. Type CD, and we are also going to put them in an overall emission color, because we want to do some emission. We want these to be emissive. And let's go into our overall, and let's turn up the emission weight to just 2 or something. Let's press render again. Yeah, so you can see this works. So if we continue, it should slowly sort of fade out when it gets darker, as you can see. Oh, and I get some pop-up here. So probably want to turn off the visibility of the light beam, by the way. Oh, we need to offset the timing on our light beam as well, by the way. Let's do that. we forgot to change the timing on that one. -15. And let's do the beam light. Let's turn off visibility, but maybe. Oh, we can maybe keep it on. Okay, so that works. Just to be sure, let's make sure that we use velocity like that. So there may be a little bit extreme compared to what I did with my original, but that's okay. Let's go into out. Let's say candidate lights, everything except for beam light. We don't want to use that one. So else we're gonna have the beam thing. But so I'd say they're probably a little bit too big. And maybe what we want to do is we want to really increase the emission. Oh, maybe what would be nice is, all right, let's go in here. Let's check some attributes we have. Okay, so what we did over here is we wrote out the len attribute, right? Which is going to be between 0 and 1. So maybe you want to keep the len attribute. Len. And let's go in attributes, point attribute. Let's, do we want to do that? I mean, they're already fading to black, so I guess I'm not sure. I was gonna think maybe multiplying it by the attribute, but they're already going to black, so I guess it doesn't really matter that much. I think I'm just gonna increase the intensity. Let's maybe attribute randomize some stuff. So let's randomize the p-scale between 0.5, 0.5, 1. And let's go in here. Turn off ignore scale. Let's make them smaller. So let's set up a global scale multiplier. So they're way too big now. Let's make them smaller. Let's make them even smaller. Yeah, I like this. Let's add a math. So let's use our ground, terrain, and let's get out rocks. So you can see just adding that in for the math is really slowing down the whole thing. But so now it maths them out. Okay, so one thing that maybe we actually want to do, I'm gonna still increase these a little bit maybe, is maybe we want to use our actual pyro to maybe also sort of add to these embers. Let's just see how much it adds and if it's actually worth going through the extra render time for this. I did do this in my original thing. So in your ROP, you have forced phantom. And essentially what forced phantom will do is it will, if you put something in there, then it will be able to, then it will be visible to like the indirect rays. So for example, reflections, or it can use its emission. So that will be, of course, very useful for our pyro. So let's put our RNDR pyro in there. And maybe it will not really do much for our case, but let's see. So it takes a little bit longer now to start up. So that's also a consideration that you might take to see if you want if you want to use it or not. So you can see now we have some more light going on over here. So let's just make a snapshot. Let's remove it again and let's do another render. The same frame. So another snapshot. So you can definitely see a difference. Like this is our one where we did include the pyro, and it does definitely really look better. But it's going to be at an expense of some extra render time. Actually, in this case, it's not that much because our pyro is relatively light. But keep in mind that my final volume was like a couple of gigabytes a frame. So in that case, it's really going to add to the render time. So depend if you think that's worth the render time, depending on how much time you want to spend rendering. I kind of like it, so maybe I'm going to keep it in here. And it will also be in the final composite because I'll be using my original renders in the composite, which will be all of the separate same elements. But for you, I'll leave it up to you if you wanna do that. But yeah, it can definitely add to the overall look. Now, some extra thing that I want to record. So I actually I recorded this part a little bit after the previous part, but I want to add some additional small rocks, which is essentially this, so small scattered rocks. So the next video is going to be how we can make these scattered rocks.